You've noticed them. The person at work who still wears a mask, not just occasionally, consistently, in meetings, at their desk, in the break room, maybe even in their official work photo. And you've probably wondered, why? It's 2026. The mandates ended years ago. Most people moved on, but they didn't. If you're being honest, you've probably made an assumption that they're anxious, paranoid, still scared, living in fear. But here's what the psychology actually reveals. For most people still wearing masks, it was never primarily about COVID, and understanding why changes how you see them, and maybe how you see yourself. That's what we do here at Pattern Logic. We look at the behaviors that confuse us, in others and in ourselves, and trace them back to the patterns underneath. If that's something you're into, consider subscribing. We drop new videos all the time. Now let's get into this. When researchers studied people who continued wearing masks after mandates ended, they found something surprising. Fear of illness was only one factor, and often not the main one. A 2023 study from Frontiers in Psychology identified two distinct pathways to continued mask wearing. The first was health-based, protecting yourself or vulnerable loved ones from illness. Straightforward. But the second pathway was psychological, and it had nothing to do with germs. For many people, the mask served a different function entirely. It became what psychologists call a safety behavior, an action that reduces anxiety in social situations by creating a sense of protection. But protection from what? Not from a virus, from being seen. Before we go deeper into the psychology, let's acknowledge the obvious. Some people still wear masks for straightforward medical reasons. About 3% of the adult population is immunocompromised. Their immune systems don't respond to infections the way yours does. A cold that inconveniences you could hospitalize them. COVID variants that feel mild to most people can still cause serious complications for someone on immunosuppressants or undergoing cancer treatment. These individuals and people who live with them or care for them wear masks because the math is simple. The inconvenience of a mask is nothing compared to the risk of serious illness. Others are long COVID patients, people whose lives were fundamentally altered by an infection and who cannot afford another one. For these people, the mask is medical equipment, no different than a diabetic checking their blood sugar or someone with allergies avoiding peanuts. But this isn't who you're wondering about. You're wondering about the coworker who seems healthy, who doesn't mention any medical condition, who just never stopped. That's where it gets more interesting. Social anxiety affects somewhere between 7 and 33% of college students, depending on the study. And the pandemic gave socially anxious people something unexpected: permission to hide. Here's how researchers describe it. Social anxiety creates intense fear of being watched, judged, or evaluated by others. People with social anxiety worry that others will notice their nervousness, their blushing, their awkward expressions, their perceived flaws. Before the pandemic, hiding your face in public was strange. It drew attention. But suddenly, everyone was doing it. And for socially anxious people, it felt like relief. A mask covers the parts of the face that betray anxiety. It hides blushing. It obscures uncertain expressions. It creates a barrier between your internal experience and what others can perceive. One study found that socially anxious women showed lower blood pressure during public speaking tasks when wearing a mask. The mask provided genuine physiological relief. But here's the problem. In psychology, safety behaviors provide short-term comfort, but long-term maintenance of anxiety. They prevent you from learning that your fears are exaggerated, that most people aren't scrutinizing you as harshly as you imagine. When the mask becomes a requirement for feeling safe in public, removing it can feel impossible. Body dysmorphic disorder affects an estimated 5 to 10 million Americans. It's a condition where people become fixated on perceived flaws in their appearance, flaws that others might not even notice. For people with facial-focused BDD, the pandemic was paradoxically liberating. One patient described looking in a mirror while wearing a mask and thinking, I can't see any of the features I fixate on. The mask is covering my nose and my jaw, and I thought, wow, my hair is really nice today. For the first time, they could exist in public without the constant mental assault of their own perceived defects. Researchers noted that people with BDD often engage in camouflaging behaviors, wearing certain clothes, using makeup strategically, avoiding photographs. The mask became the ultimate camouflage. It normalized hiding the parts of themselves they couldn't accept. The challenge is that BDD isn't solved by hiding. The fixation simply moves from one feature to another, and the mask, while providing temporary relief, can prevent the kind of exposure that actually helps. But knowing this doesn't make it easier to take off. Here's one that surprised researchers. For many autistic individuals, masks provided unexpected relief, but not from germs, from the exhausting work of managing their facial expressions. Autistic masking, the psychological kind, not the fabric kind, refers to the constant effort many autistic people make to appear neurotypical, monitoring their expressions, forcing eye contact, suppressing natural reactions. It's exhausting, and it's linked to burnout, anxiety, and depression. When everyone started wearing physical masks, something shifted. Autistic individuals reported that they no longer had to monitor their facial expressions as carefully. The social expectation to perform neurotypicality through their face was suddenly reduced. One autistic healthcare worker explained, "My face often doesn't move in a way that suggests my mood. With a mask, that's not as big of an issue. There's already an expectation that people can't read my face as well. For some autistic people, keeping the mask isn't avoidance, it's accommodation, a way to participate in a social world that wasn't designed for how their brains work. Finally, there are people for whom the mask has simply become part of who they are. In Korea, there's a term, magikun, for people who wear masks to present a more favorable impression than their uncovered face would. Similar terms exist in Japan and America. The mask becomes not something you wear reluctantly, but something you choose, part of your presentation to the world. For some people, years of mask wearing created a new normal. Their identity at work, with acquaintances, in public. It includes the mask now. Removing it would feel like showing up without a crucial part of themselves. This isn't pathology. It's adaptation. The mask became integrated into how they see themselves and how they believe others see them. So what connects all of these? Whether it's medical caution, social anxiety, body image, neurodivergence, or identity, they all share something. The mask mediates the relationship between the inner self and the outer world. For the immunocompromised, it mediates physical vulnerability. For the socially anxious, it mediates fear of judgment. For those with body image concerns, it mediates self-perception. For the neurodiverse, it mediates the gap between natural expression and social expectation. The mask says there is something about direct, unfiltered contact with the world that feels unsafe for me right now. And here's what matters. That's not weakness. That's information. If you're the one noticing a coworker's mask, the research suggests a simple approach. Curiosity over judgment. You don't know their medical history. You don't know their nervous system. You don't know what wearing that mask costs them or saves them. What you do know is that they've made a choice about how to exist in shared space. A choice that affects you minimally and affects them significantly. If you're the one still wearing the mask, the question isn't whether you should stop. It's whether the mask is serving you or limiting you. If it's medical protection, it's serving you. Keep wearing it. If it's reducing anxiety, ask yourself, is this helping me function, or is it preventing me from building tolerance? Safety behaviors can be bridges or they can be walls. If it's hiding something about yourself you can't accept, the mask isn't the problem. The relationship with yourself is. And that's worth exploring. not by forcing yourself to unmask, but by understanding what you're protecting. The mask isn't a statement. It isn't politics. It isn't fear or weakness or paranoia. It's a person navigating the world with the tools that work for them right now. And that's something we all do. Some of us just do it more visibly than others. I'm curious, did any of these resonate with you? Whether you're someone who still wears a mask or someone who's been wondering about the person who does, drop a comment. And if you want more videos like this, where we dig into the psychology behind the things people do that don't quite make sense on the surface, hit subscribe. We're building something here at Pattern Logic, and I'd love to have you along for it. Until next time, this is Pattern Logic, signing out.